more so, or
This
what I'd
meeting
like to
is
think
being
more so is
Sorry, I forgot to record.
is I am able to work remote with my job, so I usually bounce around month to month. I just spent 2 months up in Canada with Sean and his girlfriend Emma. That's like the longest I've lived somewhere in the past year and a half. So I'm usually somewhere in the mountains, either hiking, skiing, running, all that good stuff. So yeah.
I appreciate that, Jason. Something I was gonna say about you was that you're the youngest person in this group, so I thought you can learn a lot. But Jess is stealing that title from you. I actually, Gazzo, I wanted to connect you and Jason because Gazzo has been running a lot, dude. I think when we spoke last, you were finishing a 100-mile week, Mike. I'm not sure if I got that down, but yep. Jason, I'd say Mike had a similar path as you, like from like a physical fitness standpoint, because one of the last times I saw Mike, I deadlifted 315 and he threw on a fourth plate and hit it 405 and was like, MMA heavy lifter type deal. You remember that at that gym with Jeffrey?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and now he's definitely more into running, hiking. So, and I think Mike's gonna do a huge hike. You're talking about Everest or Mount Kilimanjaro?
I did Kilimanjaro in December, and then Everest is potentially planned for April 2023. Yeah.
Dude, that's sweet. We'll have to get to that. And then, anyways, Jason, thank you. I appreciate that. Next up is C.
What's up, guys? I'm Christian. I'm based out of Chicago here. Me and Sean go back. We used to work together up in Milwaukee. So we go back a little bit, but professionally, I quit my job there and opened up a design and print studio with one of my best friends. And so, we basically work and run design and back-end production for a ton of different brands and companies. We're mostly kind of in like more of like a fashion niche. That's kind of where we end up with a lot of our clients. So we end up doing a lot of design for them. And then we kind of roll it in to just be able to kind of run production on that front as well. And then kind of on like the personal side of things, I like everybody else in this group, super active, enjoy being outside, playing basketball, doing whatever it is, competition, sports, kind of all of that stuff. And then I guess kind of like one of the things that, I'm really trying to push myself here in the last year, 6 months, is just like more personal projects, more like kind of growing like my artistry, doing things like that, stuff that isn't necessarily things that I want to do to kind of monetize, but is more or less just what I want to do for myself.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Christian. I read a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Talked about being creative for creative's sake is the healthiest thing you could do for your brain. And don't need to get into why now, but I think that's awesome, man. And yeah, I love seeing that, that transformation. You were totally corporate, buttoned up every day, right? And then just went to like about as creative as a job as it can get. So yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I see Rob's wearing a Freak shirt. Christian customized some Nikes for the NBA All-Star game when it was in Chicago. So some brands, he's working with some cool companies, guys. So, and he's really creative. And in that Excel that everyone signed up, you can see everyone's like IG handle or website and all shit like that. Next on my list here is the Big Hind, Marty.
What's up, guys? My name's Marty. I share a last name with someone else on this call, so as you know, he's my brother. What up, QO alums? I went to high school with Sean. I've known him for a few years. By trade, I am a software developer. I just kind of pivoted my career over in the last few years. I work for a small startup in Baltimore that also helps other startups kind of launch their products by building, whatever software development needs they have in exchange for equity in the company. on the personal side, much like everyone else, I try and stay active. Something kind of defining is I played lacrosse in college and have had a few injuries in my past. So trying to work through those has been a big part of my life the last few years. But at the same time, I like to hike, like to play recreational sports when I can. And yeah.
Marty, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little. I appreciate that. Talk a little bit about your recent spiritual journey.
Yeah, I started meditating pretty consistently like a year and a half ago, and I love it. It's awesome. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things there's a lot to dig into there, but I can say it's definitely helped me in a lot of facets in life and just given me a whole other viewpoint on life itself, experience in general. And it's been cool. Recommend I got the Waking Up app, and I did the introductory course if anyone's looking to get into it. Real good. Got me hooked.
And Marty, I appreciate that. Probably it was too big of a question for an opener here, but yeah, I think what I love about Marty is we naturally gravitate towards those same spiritual topics, and I think we also naturally view them almost opposite, like with almost opposite, but almost the same, really. And Marty's one of those guys that just in the same way you challenging me in business, Marty's constantly being like, you know, like, is that really what we want to do? Like, do you really think that's the best? And, you know, we're all yearning for that person, you know, in our life, right? The person that's gonna, like, it's very easy to be a yes man. Like, oh, cool. Like, Mark, I like what you've been doing, bro. But what I text you the other day, Mark, I'm like, yo, this video is, you know, this video is whack. You gotta update it, Mark. And what I loved about what Mark said when I texted him that was he said, thank you. I'm always looking to get better. And Mark, that shit made my day. So I appreciate it. But yeah, you know, Marty, so I appreciate you always trying to challenge me. Don't ever stop. And let's unpack that spiritual thing either on this call or in this group somehow.
Yes. Low key, I'll say, just love being the devil's advocate, playing control. Bring it on, baby.
I love it. I love it. Mr. Gazzo.
How you guys doing? I'm a little apologies if I'm a little shaky. I just did hop A, if anyone knows what that is. So I'm like grounding myself down a little bit. But so I'm like Gazzo. Hop A is a Peruvian snuff. It's a sacred plant called mapacho. It's basically nicotine, and then a bunch of like different medicinal plants, and shamans use it. People around Peru and really around the world use it to not only connect with the medicine, but find clarity, grounding, and you know, for many different purposes. So I've been on a week and a half dieta of it, taking it every day, and it's been beautiful. So so anyway, I'm a music producer by trade. I've been in music for my whole life. I've worked with Steve Aoki, BTS, Taking Back Sunday, Jordan Sparks, tons of different people, which has been amazing. And the biggest shift for me was probably about 4.5 years ago. I discovered meditation, went to 4 different silent meditation retreats, and that's sort of been the overarching sort of theme in my life of self-development, spirituality, and integrating it into every part of my life. So as Sean said, I'm a big mountaineer guy. I've been climbing a lot. I'm a boxer, a runner, all sorts of different activities. I'm also a breathwork coach, and a cold plunge coach, meditation instructor, and continuing to increase my modalities to help others heal. So we've been building workshops here in Los Angeles. About once every 40 days or so, we have about 50 people come, and we walk them through a breathwork practice that I've personally been practicing for over a year. Lots of sacred medicine, ayahuasca, San Pedro, peyote. So really it's about, for me, integrating all that perspective into what I do day to day, and sharing it with people. So.
Yeah, guys, me and Mike actually just had a podcast. That was you shared some beautiful stuff, and I know we got a little time slotted in for you to share some more, but I appreciate that, Mike. 2 things. One, me and Matt are actually going to see Steve Aoki tonight, which is funny. And The other thing is one thing that I really cherished about you, Mike, was when we spoke on our podcast. I would say you and me are naturally more doers than feelers, and we dove into this a bit. And I think a lot of people on this call are. There's a lot of masculine energy, and I don't mean like testosterone. I mean like type A, get things done type of people. And Mike was DJ, MMA. He was in a frat, right? Like heavy lifter. Like, and I think you were terrific at that person. And as you've grown, you've realized there's more feeling that you can do to round things out. And that wasn't even on my radar, because I feel that naturally, right? I was in a similar thing, right? Football player, like entrepreneur, like get things done. And I'm trying my next big evolution that I'm trying to achieve is similar to what you went through, Mike, or are going through, of doing the inner work to feel more. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate you.
Mark Green.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I know a few of you guys, Matt, Marty, and Jason, but to everyone else in the group, my name is Mark Green. Well, actually, let me start by saying thanks, Sean, for putting this together, because I think this is super pivotal in itself, and it just brings a bunch of people together that wouldn't normally be together outside of this setting. So thanks for that. But as far as my story, I feel like my life, even up to date, is super unorthodox, right? Like I never really stick to the same routine. I kind of kind of correlated to or compared to like the Forrest Gump lifestyle, just keep moving forward. The experiences that I've had along the way, some have been good, some have been bad. I came out of high school into a football scholarship, ended up leaving from playing football after 2 years, just a lot of turmoil, a lot of life things that like kind of took me out of the sport. And of course, like in that moment, I kind of sunk into like this depression state to where I didn't know what it was, because I never felt that way before. And it kind of left me like what's next type of mentality. So the one thing that I always had throughout my life was fitness, and like kind of doing something with my body to make me feel good, and kind of beating myself up to where I get that release of just positivity after the workout, after the run, whatever it was. So that wasn't enough for me, though. I wanted to switch up my life just a bit more, and add a little bit of discomfort to my life. So I ended up joining the military, to where that type of lifestyle, or the lifestyle that I'm still in, it's different. Sometimes you're called to do things that you don't want to do. You work with people from different backgrounds, all over the world, all over the country. So you kind of have to work with people, not necessarily that you like, but just to accomplish like a certain goal or task, just for the good of the colony, is what I always say. Whoever saw that 90s movie Ants, they always said for the good of the colony, right? But so yeah, that's where I am today. Still within the military. I do like a lot of youth training, because I feel like that's super important. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I just asked her, I was like, that cliche saying, but like isn't talked about enough. Like, what do you think the purpose of life is? And I just had like this epiphany, like within that moment, of what my purpose of life was. And it was to, push the generations, forward, to keep the life of the world, like keep circulating. Because if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be here. Our fathers, our grandfathers, our generation wouldn't be here to this day. So just giving back, pushing the culture, pushing the humankind like forward is something that I'm big on. Whatever I know, I try to give it away. I don't try to hold on to information. Of course, some stuff you have to keep private, but I'm big on just, if I have a nugget, if I have knowledge from my life experience, I'm gonna share it. And that's pretty much been my MO. I was saying, like in my adult life, I did have this weird sense of self, the younger me, of course, as we all did. And it was kind of like, I was always a team player, but then it was those moments where I was super selfish, in a way, a little narcissistic, you know what I mean? Like to a certain extent, to where everything was me. You know, I was a good team player, but I didn't want to share all my jewels, right? I didn't want to give everything that I could to somebody. And that kind of lifestyle for me switched over the last 7 years, really, to where it's not about that anymore. It's about, you know, giving everything that you have. You know, of course, self-preservation is key. So you want to hold on to your energy. You want to hold on to, you know, your lifestyle so that it doesn't get too much like out of frame. But, you know, I think that's big. Like this group right here, I think this group is big. And, you know, I think some good things can happen from this group. There's no other better person than Sean to host this group and run this group. He's just one of those guys, like he was saying, type A personality. He's going to get it done. He's going to, you know, make it so that we all could meet here at whatever time we select each week. I believe it's 12, but I wasn't too good with that. I came on at like 12:06, but, you know,
every month. I'm not holding y'all down every week.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's me in like I guess, a nutshell, so to speak. But the biggest thing in my life is I'm super unorthodox. Sometimes it hurts me. Sometimes it helps me greatly. But that's just always my lifestyle. And it's not about conformity. It's funny because I am in the military, so you would think it wasn't that way. But even in the midst of the military, I'm still doing things my own way within the limits and guidelines, of course. But, you know, just being that person that's different. I feel like all of us are different just from how we dress, the glasses that we're wearing, the hat that we're wearing today. Like everything's different. So that's my mantra. And yeah, that's me.
I appreciate you, Mark. Hey guys, Justin just sent me a note that he loved hearing from everyone and he had to jump. Justin's business is exploding. They had 4 people at the start of this year and he just hired his 40th. So yeah, he's killing it. Mark, I'm gonna expose you a little to the group. One, as an opportunity to close in the group, and 2, because you're tough and you can take it. Something that Mark told me recently was one of the most motivating things I ever heard. And Mark, sorry if I'm missing details, but the general synopsis of the story is outstanding. Mark told me that, you know, he realized that how the role that vices play in his life. And I would say pretty confidently, I don't think Mark had a drinking problem, if you will, but he drank and realized that it was just, it's not that drinking was bad. It's not that it was ruining his life. It wasn't the best use of his time, energy, money. And in this like evolution to always be the best version of yourself, he cut that out of his life. And a lot of people don't do that, right? You know, a lot of people say, you know, like they have some drinks, they eat some food, they don't exercise, they smoke some weed, whatever. And it's not that like I'm asking anyone to stop any of this or that I don't do any of this, but Mark's like trying to get to such a peak place that just doesn't have room in his life for him. And I think he's 3.5 weeks in, if I got my timing right. And so I want to congratulate you on that, Mark. And that's something I've been thinking about almost daily since you told me. Something else, Mark, again, just kind of opening you up to the group here. I know I would say you fall into the category that we all fall into, that you have a lot of deep spiritual thoughts. I mean, you heard the way you just said, yeah, just walked in the house and asked my girlfriend, hey, what's the meaning of life? I'm like, yeah, you know, that's a deep ass question. But I'm being serious. You know, I think a lot of the questions you asked me are similar to the ones that Marty asked me. And I mean, you guys were 2 of the 4 captains on the football team. So I hope you guys feel close enough. You know, maybe this is a little way to reunite you guys. I mean, on the deep stuff, right? You guys, you know, that's what I want with all this group is everyone's looking for those deep connections. So I appreciate that, Mark. Heath just texted me. He had to hop off. He was next. Big Rob, I don't know if you could talk. I see you're in the car. Rob's got 2 kids behind him. If it's a good time, Rob, kick us off. Hey, you got to unmute, buddy.
Hey, all right, Sean. Thanks for putting us on, man. I'm driving right now. My service is all right, so hopefully this works. But so from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I met Sean as him and Christian And for, physical wise, I really love basketball. It's my passion. And that's kind of how I linked up with to Sean and Christian. Shout out to those guys. And then, me and Sean just hit it off big right away. I really loved his mentality and his presence and everything. And, I gave Sean this book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And then about a month later, I think Sean was out of Milwaukee Tool. And I was just super proud of him to, like, a lot of people read books and have the knowledge, but don't have the wisdom to put it in practice. And I just saw Sean execute that right away. So like all of you, Sean's been a true blessing to my life. So I'm really grateful for this group of guys here. As for me, I have a background in electrical engineering and a master's in business. And then I work as a engineering manager and project leader. But what I have been doing is working to set myself up to run a business, either through entrepreneurship or acquisitionpreneurship, of buying an already established business. So I've been working in improving myself, reading a lot, practicing a lot, and my job I've kind of got set up too, where I work from home now and have the flexibility to do this, preparing for this new state coming for me. So really excited about that. Mike, really cool to hear about you and the sacred plan. Health is really something with that concern, across the earth, and I have kids, and I think it's a real area that needs help. So it's really something I'm interested in, along with the physical space, particularly around basketball. So all that, I got a beautiful, wonderful family, and everything I do is really for them, and keeps me motivated and focused. So again, Sean, thanks for putting this on, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Rob. Thanks for saying that. Rob's been one of the biggest influences of my life. I would say my three of my four favorite books, not only did Rob recommend, he bought and shipped to me while I was on the road, sent to my house. Like, very, very generous guy. Rob's well-rounded, man. He's really covering everything. There you are, Choi. What the hell? And one thing that I would say about Rob, because we're here to challenge people, and push everyone to be the best version of themselves. Rob, I think you and Marty, again, I'm putting people on the spot here because that's the type of people we're with. I think you and Marty, out of everyone here, have the deepest knowledge of content and the most depth of content. I mean, as a joke, Marty, we used to call you the YouTube guy. Rob, Rob's in the deepest corners of YouTube. Rob's read every book, every fucking podcast he's deep in. I think you guys could connect on that and learn how to go from that to action. And some of the people in this group that are terrific at that, I think, is, Christian obviously is living it. Matt, who's walking around, doesn't even know what's happening. He's definitely a doer. And Mike, right? Mike's definitely a doer. As he said, he's trying to go to it. So guys, this is like reaching out to each other to get the best out of everyone. I think it'd be awesome. Matt, you ready to talk, bud?
What's happening, guys? And lady, super dope to be here. Obviously, I know some of you guys, and just seeing your familiar faces puts a smile on my face. And everyone else I have not seen, I cannot wait to see you guys in the future. But a little bit about myself. I obviously went to high school with these guys, these crazy guys, Quincy Orchard High School. So I'm from Maryland. I graduated a business marketing and management degree, and I got into a shitty corporate job I hated. Then I got into the fitness industry. I started training people, and I really got into making content. Obviously, we're here at Gary Vee's thing, and he talks so much about marketing and attention. And I'll just kind of give you a little spiel, like everyone's attention is here. We all pay so much attention to the phone. So if you can market and actually push the things that you actually enjoy and like on the platform that people have the most attention, you have a great opportunity to do something you actually love, and then you get paid for it. So I'm sitting here today, obviously in the Viking Stadium, but I'm a full-time content creator. Me and Sean, obviously, I help Sean with some of his marketing, his agency, and specifically with social media. But that's just kind of more like Matt as like as a corporate guy, or I guess kind of like an quote unquote content creator. Things I actually like to do outside of that. I love learning. I used to cheat in high school, college on every quiz, test, homework assignment that there ever could have been, being Asian and having the expectation of parents. And obviously, some of you guys are immigrants, like grades were important, sports was not. So that pivot now at 27, like falling in love with learning new things, whether it's books, podcasts, pushing my body, my mind, and seeing what my spirit can do. Pushing ice bath. I heard someone talk about cold plunge. I love that shit. Sauna, all that stuff. I've fallen in love in that process of just learning new things. I feel like people sell themselves short. We can do so much more than what we actually do. And, guys like Jason that push the envelope, I think it's so fucking inspiring. And I try to do the same in my avenue. But that's just a little bit myself. I mean, I'm just kind of like, I'm on a high of energy at this conference and even things like this. Like, I just love when people come together that are like-minded, because I think there's a lot of power in that. But that's a little bit about myself. So I'll kind of let Sean take away from there. It's super awesome seeing all you guys. Happy Friday. And I cannot wait to see you guys in person.
Appreciate that, Matt. Yeah, I think one of the things that you hit on that I love is energy. And just to tell a little story about Matt, something that I like was, and Jason, I'll put you on the spot here, but when I said something, I think Matt, you and me were talking, and Jason overheard me saying like, "Hey, congrats on like those big sponsorships, with the work you've been doing." And Jason was like, "Oh, are you talking, Matt?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I remember like a few years back, when Matt was just like posting hella content and swearing he was gonna, make something of this." And it was that's ballsy when you look back at it, right? Like you don't look like now people like look at it kind of like, oh, it's easy. Like that's your lifestyle. Like, that's awesome. So, I love the way that you like looked, Matt, and tried to like create, one of these, like create this life that like you're looking for around, what you're doing. And I think as you continue to try to harness that and find your lane, keep the energy up. I definitely appreciate it. Now, last is going to be Jessica.
Hey guys, I'm Jessica. I'm originally from Reading, Pennsylvania, and I came to Columbia for school. I just graduated from the University of South Carolina, and I'm soon to be in Florida around Tampa area. A little bit about my personal and career life. While being here at school, I've coached a 12-year-old national volleyball club team, and I'm really into helping the youth and working with kids. So I've been doing my own personal side work with kids and mentoring and really just researching on my own to grow a business in the future for them. And I would say on my more spiritual side, last summer I interned with somebody in Columbia. Her name is Shannon Watson. She owns her own like stretch and mobility company. She's awesome. She puts on wellness events. I really got to work side beside her, and that was really awesome. And she gave me a book, forget what it's called, but it was about mindfulness, and that's kind of really when I started practicing meditation. And I'm really excited to see where this group goes and to learn from you guys and to see what you guys create and to experience.
Jess, I appreciate your constant humbleness, and I texted Jess about 15 minutes before this meeting. I said, "Hey, hop in and I'm going to have you speak and everything." She's like, "I'm all in. This sounds exciting." You're going to learn a lot from us. You have a different vantage point. Like I said, you're the youngest person in here. You're freshest with your career. I think we have a lot to learn from you. So please feel free to be vocal, right? That's I think what we're going to want for sure. So guys, those quick intros, everyone here, I don't know if you noticed, I still don't really have a name for it, but when I sent this initial email, I called it the high energy group. Matt was talking about energy. I know Rob and Gazzo talk about energy all the time. And that's what I love is everyone here has high energy. That's why everyone took, instead of 60 seconds, 4 to 5 minutes. And that's what I love. So I appreciate that energy. In the realm of that, Mike, when I asked for someone to, I said I need 1 or 2 people to kind of raise their hand. I didn't even say what the task was. Mike sent me a text immediately. "I'm in, just tell me what to do." And I really haven't told you much until then because I know I can toss you on the spot. I'm going to ask you to be on the spot, Mike, and be a little conscious of time. If you could take maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I'd love you to talk a little bit about that journey that you went through. In my mind, it's related to your first ayahuasca trip, but that could be incorrect. To me, it's more about that transition from masculine to feminine energy from a mindset standpoint.
Of course. So as most of us know what masculine energy is, divine masculine energy, it's the doing. It's the setting tasks, setting goals, and achieving them. It's the practice of achieving something. So there's always kind of a goal oriented with that masculine energy. There's many other things about masculine energy, but in this context, many years of feeling, I toured the world. I did so many different drugs and was like, I wouldn't even call myself a crippling alcoholic, but I drank so much. And I felt like I was constantly like chasing after something. And when I got there, it was never satisfying. And so I found that like a lot of the anger that would come up, the sadness was really being like repressed. So I had decided and been called really to go down to Peru and do ayahuasca and many other medicines in the Amazon jungle. And during ayahuasca, that first time really opened me up to the feminine side of being. And being is sitting with your emotions, sitting with what's underneath it all, right? Your motivation, it's just sitting with it. And that's like one of the hardest things to do if you're a doer, right? You spend so much time and you're like, oh, well, I feel like shit, I'm going to go do a bunch of things so I can feel better. It's not wrong, but there's a whole other side to balance yourself out that I was missing in my life. So it showed me, there's moments of contraction and moments of expansion. The expansion is that high energy. That's that doing spirit. It doesn't necessarily mean that expansion doesn't have moments of being as well, because you sit with it, right? You're like, you all know what it feels like to be in flow state. You all know what it feels like to be just like, everything's just fucking happening. And it feels like the universe is putting everything in front of you in a good way. But on the contrary, in order to elevate yourself from where you are to the next step, you have to breathe in. You have to go in within yourself. So ayahuasca was really, meditation had started it, but my integration was complete trash. I went back to the same patterns, and it took me 2.5 years to finally realize what being was, and sit with my emotions, sit with what was underneath it all. And since doing that, my entire life has shifted in the most beautiful ways. Opportunity has been knocking at my door left and right. But what was interesting is not to crave, shitty times or contraction. I enjoy contraction. I enjoy being within myself and being through those. I call myself and I've been called like a light warrior. I go into the darkest parts of myself so that I can show my light and share my light with people, share my energy, share my thoughts, share my experience. So there's I've mentioned Ram Dass to the group, and Ram Dass has a quote: "Never are you nearest to the light until you're at your darkest or your deepest." So in order to really shine as bright as we all can, it requires a really almost surgical look at what's underneath the patterns, underneath the actions, and what motivates us to be who we are in the day-to-day, to wear the different masks we have to play the different roles that we might have to, being a brother, being a sister, being a father, a mother, a business associate, whatever you are, and knowing why you're doing the things you are. So it was a really tremendous experience, really opened me up. And now I'm like, I find it so funny because there'll be moments where I'm just sitting there and I'll just start crying because and the interesting thing is I know when it's gratitude, and then I know when I'm like, oh, here's contraction knocking at my door. Here we go. Here's where the work begins. It's really easy to stay up here, right? But to be in, that's the hardest part. So I have really been practicing presence in both of those experiences in life. So,
Thanks for flipping inside out for us. I appreciate it. I'll tell you guys, I've obviously had time to think about what I've learned from Mike, and it's fun. For some reason, Mike, I gotta tell you, I was like introduced to you as Gazzo, and I don't know, ever since maybe a year ago when I feel like we kind of more reconnected on this transition. I noticed I call you Mike more, so I have no idea why.
It was Gazzo for everyone. Gazzo was my artist. Yeah, that was my artist name. I would like pound bottles of Jaeger every night and like just be and you know, nothing against drinking or anything as I kind of stated as a vice, but yeah, it was a whole persona, so I get it.
No, it's fine. But I'll tell you what comes to my mind. You know, when I hear you talk about that, it's one. The first thing is really like the consistent work, right? Like the fact that it was 2.5 years. I mean, that's a long time, and really like 4 years. And then also just the fact that you even had the wherewithal to like see a change. Like, again, I know you pretty well. I wouldn't call you I wouldn't say then you were a crippling alcoholic, like, you used the term at all. But could you have used that time and energy better elsewhere? I think we both would agree. Absolutely. I don't want to put people on the spot. I try to read faces, and it looks like Marty and Rob might have something to say. So if anyone does have something to chime in here, this is a good time. Ask Mike about kind of like what he went through. I mean, that's what I want to do, is instead of everyone going deep, I want to kind of, like have everyone be able to actually learn and share from what they went through.
All right, I'll ask a question, even though that was like my blank stare face. I don't know if that was like my inquisitive face, but yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. And so I was wondering, when you say, and I'm not sure if I'm getting everything right, but when you say like, it sounds like, to sum it up, if you feel these bad thoughts, instead of running from them or doing something or, trying to just produce positive thoughts, you sit in them and you kind of feel them out. Like, what exactly, like, how long do you sit in them? How do you know when to like get out of them? Like, do you kind of just yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little paradoxical, right? Because in a way, so to kind of summarize it, like, we live in a world of duality as humans so that we can learn, right? Good and bad, right and wrong. But the reality is that neither are good or bad. They're just experiences. So to me, the hardest part is you don't know how long you'll be in contraction. An example would be when I climbed Kilimanjaro. About 2 months before that, I had an ayahuasca retreat where I also did a medicine called San Pedro. It's a huachuma. It's like a cactus. And anyway, so it's kind of similar to like an MDMA or ecstasy type of like ethereal experience. But the difference is that anyone that's done MDMA or ecstasy before, you're like an open book. You're just like, I'm going to tell you everything, and there's no judgment, and there's nothing. And it's beautiful because of that. But there isn't like a choice to speak your truth. And what Wachuma is there's a click where you're like, oh, there's something, I need to like express it. Will I express it? Why am I not expressing it? So there's like kind of that cognitive sort of like decision making that you have to go through. But anyway, 2 months later, I climbed Kilimanjaro, completely exhausted after summit day, had all troubles trying to come back to United States. It was right around Christmas. And I fell into a deep contraction. I mean, my sister was going through a manic episode. She had struggled with bipolar most of her life. It was chaos. Holidays are chaos for most people. And so I had a choice that I made. Even inaction is a choice. You choose not to do something about it. So I decided, I was like, I'm just going to sit and let the fucking shaking the Diet Coke bottle. I'm going to take the top off and just see what happens. And so I sat in it. I tried doing breath work. It wouldn't get me anywhere. And I sat with it, and I was explosive, man. I was, thank God my girlfriend is an absolute saint, because I really was only around her. I was just like trigger. But I was conscious of it. So I sat with it and worked through it. And it's a difference between a pattern or a trigger, just being anger that comes out, and being conscious that you're choosing to allow it to come out, that you're choosing, I'm in this space. And it took me about, I processed things relatively quickly, but it took me about 2 months, 2.5 months. Now it's not every day I'm just like, like this ebbs and flows of everything. But at the end of the day, the appreciation that anger was even able to come out in a way that was productive was tremendous. And it brought me to a place where I was then ready to go underneath the anger to deepen my awareness into the sadness that was underneath, the grief that was coupled with many different memories from my childhood, traumas that existed in my early adult life. And I'm 32, so early 20s, maybe 18 to 24 or so. So it's I can't answer the question of how long, but I can say that it is very, very valuable to cultivate the awareness through meditation like you are, to notice that there and to sit with it and work with it in the way that your life allows you to. Obviously, during the holidays, I had a lot more extra time. The music industry closes from December to February anyway. So it was unbelievably poetic that it happened then, but we all don't have that luxury. So it's about taking time, you go and you work and you take time after to okay, all these things bothered me, why? And you can do meditation. Breathwork is an incredible modality that anyone can use from anywhere from 10 minutes to 3 hours if you're going deep, and to just keep working with the feeling in a way that you're almost sitting with a friend who's angry and speaking to yourself in the same way you'd speak to a friend. Why are you angry? What is this really about?
Yeah.
And it's challenging because if you're not around people that are cultivating awareness as well, they'll just take it as personal, But my partner, my beautiful girlfriend was she knew it was that's your shit. I was I'm just going to hold space. Sometimes she left. I was I'm not dealing with this fucking chaos, But it's always valuable to sit with them. And there's a difference between sitting with it in awareness and wallowing. Wallowing is not productive, right? But grief itself as a fundamental emotion, grief specifically, and really most emotions, to feel it is the only way through it. You can't bypass it. You can't go around it. You can certainly convince yourself that you are, but it's the value of knowing that whatever's happening that's triggering you isn't the whole story. There's deeper layers, and to just keep observing it, and try to put out as many fires as you can. Obviously if you're working a corporate job, you can't be in the middle of a meeting and be just scream at someone,
Well, you can.
You can, but I don't know if you keep the job. So it's about, creating space in your life where you can to sit with the emotions that are bubbling up and allowing them to come up in the most productive way that you can. So
thanks, man. That made
Chris.
sense. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Mike. And guys, we got 3 minutes left here, and I was thinking this whole time, we're talking about masculine energy. Everyone in this group, right, is on the way of action. Me and Matt are at a conference. We're hearing motivational people speak. If we don't do anything, what's the point of being inspired by them? So I wanted to figure out how we could end this call with something actionable. And what Mike just said, I didn't have anything when Mike just said, click something for me. He was talking about making the space. So what I'd love to do is everyone except maybe Christian, because he's driving. If everyone can text in the group right now before the meetings ends, something that they want to make space for over the next month until we talk next. And one way that we can keep you accountable for it for the next, for every week, right? So we can do kind of weekly check-ins through text. So I can tell you that I know I'm going to steal this from Jason. I know that when you're training for an ultra marathon, like he does a lot, you become the best version of yourself. And those who know me well know that I don't let lifting weights go by, but I tend to let running go by. And running in itself isn't some major goal. Marty, maybe that'll be your topic to go into next time, the importance of goals. Jot that down. But when I do run a lot, I find that I'm a happier person. So for me, it's going to be to maintain everything else in my life, my business, my personal relationships, weightlifting, anything like that, like this group, as well as starting to take running seriously and stop checking in with Choi and Jason saying like, yeah, I ran a little, but I lifted like really hard this week, because I tend to, if I can't dunk on 10 feet, I tend to lower the rim to 8 feet. So I want to make sure I can, but just so everyone knows, I can dunk on 10 feet. That's for you, Christian. And maybe Rob. No, but seriously, guys, take some time now. I know everyone probably has a meeting to go to. We got 1 minute left, but please pick something that you want to create space for in your life. Create space for, right? And how we can hold you accountable and check in with each other. And we'll do a fun little exercise to that here. But I just want to say, guys, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking this with me. And you guys obviously know I'm here for truth. I'm not here for ego or anything like that. Can I get a thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down on how much they enjoyed this experience, learned from this experience?
Thumbs up.
Hey, Mark hit me with the cartoon thumbs up. I like it. I appreciate that, guys. I really do want to work hard to iterate on this and make it intimate and actionable. So please send me those texts, guys. I'm going to pair everyone up with accountability partners. So get ready, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. See you guys later.
Nice meeting you.
Peace.